going on? How's everyone doing? It's Wednesday. It was like 40 degrees today, so it was actually pretty nice here in Minnesota. All right, so we're going to talk about everything. Definitely going to talk what's going on, Tall Kid. We are definitely going to be talking about Crawford and this lawsuit, of course. But first, we're going to go from the lightest to the heaviest in news. But we are going to spend a lot of time talking about Crawford. This is a big deal, and we're going to have a lot to talk about. Yeah, there's a lot of news going on, and some really interesting tweets, which are also very newsworthy. So, let's start off. First one off the bat, a little bit of a downer, not gonna lie to you. And that is Gary Russell Jr. We just found out that his father had his foot amputated. Now, his father was his head trainer for his career. And so that's really sad. His dad had complications because he has type 2 diabetes and had to have his foot amputated. It's been really tough for Gary Russell. He says it's been a little bit chaotic in the gym for him, getting ready for this fight. I feel really bad for him, and hopefully speedy recovery to his dad. But kind of sad news there, and I'm sorry to hear that. So, next, moving basically the same weight class. Interesting side note, Shakur Stevenson tweeted out that his next fight is going to be a surprise and that it could make him pound for pound. Now, a lot of people were saying Loma, Valdez. Some people are saying Kambosos. I don't understand why you'd predict that. Like he'd get that title shot. But it is interesting. I'm willing to bet more than anything it being at 130 and saying that you want to be ranked pound for pound. I'm going to assume he's going to be trying to go for Valdez. It'd make the most sense. I could see some people, it wouldn't make you pound for pound. Some people brought up, Leo Santa Cruz. I mean, at 130, I really doubt it's going to be Loma at 130. Loma's very fixated on Kambosos, and we're going to talk about Kambosos. So Valdez makes probably the most sense. I'm very interested to see if he gets that. So I'm very curious to see what this fight's going to be possibly. Cruz has been out. He has a fight coming up. So we'll see how that all plays out. But that was a quick little side note I wanted to bring up, because I think it's interesting to see where he goes from here after obviously that amazing fight he had with Herring. He looked so sharp, so good. Now, the next story is our good friend Rolly. He has been cleared of all allegations, and the investigation is closed. So I dug into the story a little bit more, and basically what happened was the allegations were about 2 years old. Or the incident in the allegation was about 2 years old. There was no physical evidence, obviously. So that makes it kind of tough to begin with. On top of that, from what I read, it seemed as though Rolly made advances. The girl said stop. He stopped. So it technically did not fit the criteria of what was being alleged. So Rolly is cleared. And that means he is a possibility for this spring. I would not be shocked if Rolly gets the Tank fight. Would not be shocked. And that's correct. The boxer formerly known as Rolly. My goodness, his Twitter has just been crazy. So, interesting news there. But he has been cleared. Technically, he has been cleared. I think, if anything, it's must be frustrating in terms of he was going to have a huge fight with Tank, obviously. So, let's see what he does. Because, according to his Twitter, which we'll review, he's a painter now. He has left boxing. He is formally the boxer formerly known as Rolly, and he is a full-time painter now. So make of that what you will. Okay. So. Advances. Rolly doesn't make advances. Advances are made at Rolly. Case closed. Now, moving up to 140. Little bummed about this, but still not too bad of news. Pedraza versus Ramirez has been postponed until March 4th. You know, I'm okay waiting for it. I'm fine with waiting for it. A little bummed out we have to wait for it, but this is a hell of a good fight. Hell of a good fight. I have to say Pedraza's looked so much better at 140. He's looked so much better at 140. Looking sharp. Ramirez is obviously on the rebound. Let's see how he looks. But, I mean, my goodness. This is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. Good, solid fight. Okay. Now, let's have the conversation. That is the main topic. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I forgot one other thing. And that is Kambosos says in May, it's either looking like it is going to be Haney or Lomachenko. Sorry, I almost passed this story up. That to me is huge. I think either fight is a big fight, obviously. If it's Loma, that is a very dangerous fight. Extremely dangerous fight to have to fight someone that doesn't have a belt. I would not make that. I would not make that fight. That would not be my primary choice. Because if you're going to fight, and you're going to take risks, probably not what I would do first. I would probably try to get undisputed. That would probably be my primary objective. So that's where I'm thinking he's probably going to go with Devin Haney. That makes the most sense. What do you got here for me talking? We can watch this on maybe Friday, depending if I'm streaming on Friday. Mostly because I'm also using this as audio as for a podcast. So then I have to do extra editing, and it's really annoying. But Fridays usually are wide open for that, as well as Saturdays. So I'm gonna assume that that's what Kambosos is gonna go with, is probably Haney. I would imagine if you're gonna take the biggest risk. I mean, both of them are dangerous. Both of them are not an easy fight. With Lomachenko, I think you have a little bit more of a resume there to kind of be a little bit nervous about compared to Haney's resume. But Haney, obviously being bigger, still dangerous, young. If you're gonna take the risk, you're gonna go big fight, you might as well go undisputed. That's my general take on that. General take. I think that's probably where Kambosos wants to go. And then afterwards, if you want to go for Loma, you can do a Loma fight. But if you're going to take big risks, might as well try to go for undisputed. Okay. let's get to the main topic. And I got to be careful about this topic because it can be kind of sensitive to some people. So Terrence Crawford is suing Top Rank for breach of contract, and he claims racial bias. Okay? So I'm going to lay out all the facts, and then we'll kind of talk about it a little bit. So in a quote from Crawford, he had this to say about it. And this is in the formal allegations and everything. It said Top Rank, a company with 0 black executives and only 2 or 3 black employees, refuses to admit that it does not care about, support, or know how to promote black fighters. That's the official statement from kind of Crawford on it. Obviously, there's a lot of people that have opinions about this. Okay? So, first and foremost, the first thing people kind of bring up when they're talking about this is the fact that Bud re-signed a contract. He re-signed a contract with Top Rank. And why would you do that if you felt this way all along? Or if you've had this kind of feeling? Has things changed since you've re-signed? I'm kind of surprised he did re-sign, to be honest with you. But that's kind of one thing people point out. Another thing people point out is that Bob and Top Rank have a history of promoting every single kind of fighter of every kind of race and nationality. Muhammad Ali, Hagler, James Toney, Manny Pacquiao, Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather, like Cotto, like they have a history of kind of promoting everybody of every race. So, and making them all superstars. So some people kind of point to that and are like, well, this is ridiculous. So those are what some people will say when the initial kind of reactions to it. Now, my kind of first thought was, this is a really hard claim to make. It's a really hard claim to prove. Unless there's some kind of hard evidence you have to prove this, this is a really, really hard thing to bring to court and win $10 million, which is what Bud is asking in terms of damages because of this. To add to this all, you are going up against Top Rank. And Bob Arum, I don't know if everyone knows this, is a lawyer. He has a degree from NYU and from Harvard in law. So he is a skilled lawyer. That's how he started in boxing. Okay? Now, to add to that, to make things even worse for Bud's case, Floyd has sued Top Rank before. Manny has. Oscar has. Cotto has. A bunch of big stars have tried to go to court with Bob and Top Rank. They have all lost. For various reasons. Not necessarily this reason. But they've all gone to court and they've all lost. So you're not going up against someone that's an easy target to begin with to have a lawsuit against. Then to make this kind of claim that is hard to substantiate without hard evidence or proof is even harder. With all of that said, I will say that there is some things that you can't prove. in terms of we don't know things that are behind the scenes. We don't know contracts that didn't get made. We don't know things that were said. All that stuff. I can't make any kind of hard evidence against Bud making this statement. I will say that there was outward conversation from Bob Arum about losing money on Bud Crawford fights. We heard time and time again Bob Arum bad-mouthing Bud Crawford. It's not a mystery that Bud and Bob didn't like each other. They both said a lot of things to each other and about each other publicly to the press. So there is no love there. Do I think that Bob tried to not promote, underpromote, do a bad job of promoting Bud Crawford? I would say probably didn't want to, because the number one thing that Bob cares about more than anything is money. That's all he cares about, I think, ultimately, in my opinion. That's what Bob cares about the most. Because if Bob can take guys that are boxers that can't speak English and make them into stars, like a Manny Pacquiao, hell, even Lomachenko, who could barely speak English 3 years ago, there's a case to be made that he cares more about making people stars and making money than not trying to do that. Now, some people say there's a quote from Bob saying that he has issues promoting black fighters to the urban culture. Apparently, this is something he said about Floyd Mayweather. I can't substantiate that. I don't necessarily know if that was something that was said. Obviously, Floyd, if that was about Floyd, that was a long time ago. But I also don't believe wholeheartedly that Bob is the only person at Top Rank trying to do promotion. It's a bigger company than that. Okay? This is a really tough and touchy situation, obviously. Because now you have a really bad taste in people's mouth in terms of fans. People are looking at this and claiming you're just trying to make money, and that's the whole reason you're doing this. People are saying that you're crying wolf and that you're like, people are not happy about this. This is not good. Okay? This is not a good look, I would say. If Bud felt this way, then I feel bad for him. Okay? I will say that. If Bud felt as though there's a racial element to why he didn't get certain fights or he didn't get promoted the way he wanted, I feel really bad for him because that sucks. Okay? I don't think that a fighter wants to feel that they didn't reach top potential in terms of earnings and fights they could have had based off their race. No one wants that. No one wants that, especially when you have someone that is talented like Bud Crawford. I don't think anyone wants that. So I do feel bad if he does feel that way. Okay? But I will also say this is not the way to go about it. This is like the last way I think you should go about it. Because you're not going to prove this in court. It's going to get thrown out. You now just burned a serious bridge with a top promoter, one of the biggest promoters. Granted, a lot of people would say he's not the biggest player at 147 pounds, but I'm going to talk to you in a minute why that's a problem. And depending on who you're going to be dealing with as other promoters, right? You think Eddie Hearn wants to promote Terrence Crawford after this? If there's a possibility that Bud says the same thing about him? Probably not. Think Oscar wants to? Probably not. I'm going to assume that that makes you kind of a target for people not to want to work with. Because they're going to say, what if you turn around and try to sue us? Because you don't get the fights you want because you have a really high minimum for your fights, which Bud is always the A side. He was getting paid a lot of money for his fights, and that didn't always leave a lot in the pot for his opponents. Made things a little bit difficult. So that leaves PBC, and arguably a lot of people are like, well, that means we could get the Spence fight. We could get, if Keith Thurman wins, there could be a Keith Thurman fight. There's some great elements to this if he goes to PBC, right? Well, I would say, based off the track record of what Bud said in the past about PBC and Al Heyman, maybe Al Heyman doesn't want to work with him. We don't know if that's true. Al Heyman has not really shown a lot of love towards Terrence. Maybe they bear at the hatches and they sign a contract and it's all good, right? And then we get all the fights we want. We get Spence and we get more of those fights that we might be interested in. Sure. But you know what could have been a really big money fight? Josh Taylor. Undisputed 140-pound champion comes up to fight Terrence Crawford at 147 pounds. That would be a massive fight. 2 pound-for-pound talents fighting each other. Huge fight. That's never going to happen. Because that's even more of a global fight right there. You definitely get the European, UK market wanting that to be a part of what they're watching. They're going to stay up till 4 a.m. for that. So, do I think this is a good look? No. Do I think this is well handled? No. This is kind of a lose-lose situation, I think, for Terrence. I think he's going to lose in court. I think he's going to lose in terms of possible future promotion. I don't think this is the best way he could have handled this, in my opinion. If you really want to stick it to Top Rank, what you could have done is went to PBC or Floyd or someone else, and then you could have beaten one of their golden fighters like a Josh Taylor. Take all his belts away. Go down to 140, beat him at 140. Go over and just beat the opponents or the fighters of the promoter that you don't care for. That would do a lot more damage, probably, than going to court. Because now you're going to lose in court and you're going to have to pay for it. Because if Bob Arum decides to go for a defamation lawsuit against you and you lose that, you just lost the case and paid your lawyers, and now you could lose possibly even more income. Bad situation. Bad situation. I hate these kind of topics because it brings out the worst in people in terms of conversations in the boxing community. People get very, very, I'll say a lot of people have very strong opinions. Obviously, this touches a nerve for a lot of people. I've heard this kind of general saying from people that Bob Arum does not know how to promote quote unquote urban fighters. And whether you agree with that or not, I don't think this is the best way to go about dealing with it. Signing a contract with someone else that you feel like will promote you better and then beating their top fighters is a better way to do it. That's how I would, if you really want to go after someone's income, if you really want to get back at someone and as a promoter, that would do a lot better. You know? That's a very good point. Broke boy, exactly. There is a possibility that if Crawford loses money from a defamation lawsuit and lawyers and all this other stuff, how many fights does he have left? I'll tell you this much. There's certainly going to be people that aren't going to tune in for his fights. because of this, because of his pay-per-views. His pay-per-view numbers have not always been great. He probably lost some fans with this. It's a bad, bad situation. So, most of them are having a lot of amateur fights. To answer your question, Tall Kid, why are these, guys having hundreds of amateur fights to turn pro late? Part of it is sometimes they're in parts of the world that don't get a lot of looks, and it earns them money. Part of it is that if you come to the table with an established amateur career, it makes it a lot easier for you to get bigger fights sooner. If you look at how many fights Lomachenko's had, and look at how many fights even someone like Usyk's had, and how many title fights they've had. Right? So, it's one thing I will point out in terms of that. I do agree that they probably have too many amateur fights, but what's going on, dude? So, that is the main topic right there. That's my general take on it. I do think that this is not going to end well for Bud. And I think he's going to end up probably losing more money than making any money. And possibly missing out on possible fights. So, kind of interesting. And the thing is, this didn't happen. None of this came out until today at like 3:00. And then it just like hit Twitter in like an absolute jackhammer. I mean, it was just like sledgehammer, boom. Everybody's talking about it. It was just all over in the boxing community. So I'm glad I was able to pay attention to this. I mean, who knows? Maybe he tries to promote himself, but that still means you have to make deals with people, Thoughts on boxing rules, MMA gloves? I'm guessing you're talking about on what's going on with Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou. And okay, so first and foremost, with the whole Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury thing, it's not going to happen. Francis Ngannou has at least one more fight. And even after that, there's no way in hell, if you're Tyson Fury or you're part of Tyson Fury's team, you're going to allow him to get in the ring unless he's against Usyk. So that's my general take. I don't think it will happen, and it's very unlikely. So, generally speaking, 407. That's exactly how I feel. And Jay, yeah, exactly. Like I can't say without a doubt that Bob Arum is racist, because I truly believe that he doesn't pull the strings on every single fight and promote every single that. He's 90 years old. You don't think there's other people that are handling that are in charge of promoting fights, doing social media, all that stuff? I can't say that the entire organization is racist. There's just no way. I just don't believe that. But I also don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't know if people have said things, emails, conversations, contracts. I don't know any of that stuff. I have no clue. So I can't say without a doubt that this is just all BS. I have over 3,000 hours of watching lawyers. Shows like Matlock and Law and Order. I actually don't think this ends the Spence fight. Because Crawford could go somewhere else and possibly possibly get a contract with PBC, making that fight even easier. But the question is, does it make Crawford a little bit harder to deal with in general? Because if he's not signed to a contract, does he do one fight contract? Does he do his own promotion? Obviously, you're not going to be sharing promotional dollars with another promoter if he does it himself. He's not probably going to have enough money to put it up himself. You know? So in general, like I said, it's a touchy subject and it's really tough. And Bob has been sued by so many people, or Top Rank has. Okay. So I'm not saying that people are like, there's no valid points or people are super happy with their contracts. Not saying that, but I am going to say no one's beat them in court. And when the head of your organization went to Harvard Law and NYU Law, it's really, really hard to make the case that you're going to go on this kind of claims and win $10 million like you're asking. You know, it's really tough. Do you see either Jake Paul or Eddie Hearn promoting Serrano versus Taylor? It's gonna be Eddie Hearn. And I'll tell you why. Because Katie Taylor is a massive star in the UK. Massive star. Serrano, although she has some numbers here in the US, women's boxing is tiny here. And Eddie Hearn, it's gonna be on DAZN. I don't think Jake Paul would be the person I would want to be in charge of promoting that fight unless he's on the card. I mean, Bob, like I said, Bob Arum has represented and promoted a lot of individuals with every single kind of nationality as well as race. So it's really hard to make the case that he's like, you know, I think he's more focused on dollars. I mean, so this is, like I said, this is a really tough subject, and people are like, oh no, this is 100% true. Like, Bud could have been so much bigger. And then people are like, why did he resign? And there's just a lot of conversation around. I want to give my 2 cents, which is, I don't think you're going to be able to prove this in court. And on top of that, I think you're probably going to lose money. And if Bob and Top Rank want to do a defamation lawsuit, you're screwed. And if your other promoters like Eddie Hearn or Oscar De La Hoya, Frank Warren, you might not want to touch Terrence Crawford with a 10-foot pole after this. Maybe PBC's like, oh, this is a perfect chance for us to get him. Maybe we get him, you know. Or he wants to do his own thing. Probably going to lose some fans in the end too. So, not the way I would go about it. But then again, I'm not Bud. In 2018, he re-signed with him. So, 2018, 2019, Bud signed a new contract with him. Yeah. Part of that, people believe, is because he was thinking that he was going to get the Manny Pacquiao fight. And that didn't happen. So, I wouldn't say career ending. I wouldn't be surprised if Bud only fights one time next year. It's just really tough. You're putting people in a bad situation. You know? And people are going to look at you like, okay, well, if that's how he felt about Bob, how's he going to feel about me? You know? I highly doubt, Tall Kid, it would be in Mexico. I doubt it'd be in Mexico. If anything, it'd probably be in Puerto Rico. So, let's keep talking about welterweight. We have Mario Barrios says Keith Thurman's making a mistake overlooking him. I absolutely agree with this. I think this is a great take. Because I think Barrios knows that right now Keith's out doing press. He's talking a lot about what he wants to do when he wins, how he wants to do everything. Says he wants to fight Terrence Crawford afterwards. And I'm not hearing him talk a lot about the fight that's in front of him. Now, Barrios also said that he believes that Keith Thurman's going to be hungry. He's going to come in there and he's going to try to prove a point. I just think that there could be an upset here. Now, this has also been said that people are mentioning that if Keith Thurman loses, it's significantly going to damage his career. It's really going to hurt his career. And some people even call it career ending if he loses. I would probably say with the long layoffs and losing to Manny and everything like that, Keith's on probably thin ice from a promotional standpoint. You know? How long do you want to keep around a guy that maybe fights once every couple years? His fan base is probably dwindling, probably getting tired of him. If he loses to Barrios, and if he loses badly, you know? Not good. Not good. Jake Paul actually get knocked on a cage now. If he does, it's not going to be UFC. Definitely not in UFC. It'd have to be another organization because Dana White hates his guts. So, I know Mayweather didn't like him. I mean, he's had a lot of issues with other people as well. I think that if Barrios versus Thurman, the winner of that, I think Boots Ennis would be a great person to fight the winner of that. Or possibly the other individual that could step in after the Thurman Barrios fight, and this has been talked about a little bit, is this man right here, Mr. Virgil Ortiz Jr., who's fighting on March 19th on DAZN. McKinston is who he's fighting. I looked him up, kind of did some research on him. This should be easy work. This should be fairly easy work for Ortiz Jr. I think he should have no problem with this fight. I think this is going to be a good little keep busy fight to set up something bigger. I think Virgil Ortiz are going to be licking their chops depending on how Keith Thurman looks against Barrios. Because I think both of them could beat either Barrios or Thurman. They're both young, hungry, sharp. No question. I think both of them could easily win. So, let's say Keith goes out there and he wins, right? But it's not a great performance. You know that both Ortiz and Boots want his name on their resume. It's the perfect guy to have on your resume. Sean Porter's out of the mix. He's retired now. Doesn't mean he won't come back, but he's less likely to. So, I'm willing to bet that both those guys are going to be watching that fight very intensely and very much with a notepad taking notes about what they would love to do if they got in the ring with him. Expect that. Absolutely expect that. Keith Thurman has a bullseye right now on his back because he is looking weak after especially that Manny Pacquiao fight. I mean, Manny just crushed him. So I really think that I'm expecting those guys to really take notice of that fight. You know? I mean, the big thing with Thurman is the time out of the ring is huge. And he can't look rusty. You can't look... The welterweight's too good. That division's way too good to look rusty. Chavez Jr. is only banned in Nevada and Arizona, so it could possibly be in Cali or Texas. Yeah, I would probably say Texas. Less limitations in terms of restrictions, in terms of crowds. Could be in Florida. Right? I'd probably put it in one of those two locations, most likely Texas. Yeah, maybe Florida. Throwing in Miami. You know? Even more of a reason. It's not far from where he's spending his time in Puerto Rico, correct? So, wouldn't be that far off. So now moving up in weight. Okay. This was something I thought that was pretty interesting. Looking at middleweight. Jaime Munguia is looking to face the winner of Triple G versus Murata. I love this fight. I think that Jaime Munguia has now kept Triple G's name in his mouth for a while, and he's been mentioning him a bunch. And at first, before, actually right after the Canelo fight, second Canelo fight, I was like, Munguia, you don't want any of that smoke. Like, you don't want any of that smoke from Triple G. But since then, Triple G has not looked like Triple G. And we're going to see how he looks in this next fight. It's going to be very telling. You're looking at a guy that's pretty much 40 years old with Triple G. Now, even that said, Triple G has an incredible chin. And he still hits hard. Munguia hits hard and has a really good chin too. So it would be a super fun fight regardless. I think it's a really fun fight. Munguia, I believe, is a mandatory. This would be a hell of a good fight. And I just love that this kid's going after Munguia. Is going after Triple G. Love that. Dude just used his face. Yeah. So, Danny Jacobs. Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about him right now. Because this is actually a tough fight. Danny Jacobs fighting John Ryder, man. That's going to be a hell of a fight for Danny Jacobs. If the John Ryder that showed up against Callum Smith shows up in this fight, Danny Jacobs probably is going to be done career-wise. Danny Jacobs is, I believe, 34 years old at this point. Close to 35. He doesn't have any prospects in terms of getting a belt. He arguably lost to Gabe Rosado, who just lost to Jaime Munguia. He just doesn't seem to have what it is needed to probably get a belt back. And if he moves up to 168 pounds, I think he gets eaten alive by some of the guys up there. I like Danny Jacobs, but this fight's going to be big. This is going to be huge for him. Yeah, he has Danny Jacobs does have a great chin, but this is going to be a very interesting fight because I think John Ryder is underrated. I think he's a little bit underrated. So I'm curious about this. I'm curious because if John Ryder wins, it really kind of boosts him up. So I don't know. I think that we will find out where Danny Jacobs at in his career. We'll have a very clear picture based off of what's going on. So, is Canelo staying at 168 pounds? Good question. David Benavidez just said Canelo must vacate his 168-pound titles if he's not going to fight him at super middleweight. I have no clue what Canelo is going to do. I have no clue what his next fight's going to be. I have no idea if it's going to be cruiserweight, light heavyweight, or he's going to try to stay at super middleweight. Or maybe drop down to 160 pounds and fight Charlo. Because that's actually the fight that people are talking about the most. That's probably the fight that has been rumored the most. And a lot of people have been saying, is it going to be Charlo? It seems like it could be Charlo. And that's what the news story's been for Canelo the last week. Problem is, according to Eddie Reynoso, officially, he's not in negotiations for a fight right now. So I don't know. It was the narrative's been Charlo for the last week. If there's no, does Canelo go down to 160? Because if there's no belt on the line from the other fighter, I question whether or not Canelo even wants to fight for it. Like, I'm going to fight for my belts. I mean, if there's no other belts on the line, I don't know if he's as interested. So what's interesting, to your point, Jay, about Benavidez is that the WBC during their annual meeting, said that Benavidez is the mandatory for the WBC belt at super middleweight. So they're like, Benavidez and Canelo have to fight. Eddie Reynoso then said, we're not going to fight at super middleweight our next fight. We're going to fight at cruiserweight. So we'd like to do that before we fight and defend our mandatory at 168 pounds. And the WBC said, sure. Now it's all sorts of jumbled up and we don't know. Quite honestly, I'm not surprised. The WBC will back whatever Canelo wants to do. Really. I mean, they make a special belt for like every Canelo fight. Do you guys notice that? Every Canelo fight, there's like some kind of special WBC belt. And they always throw it on Canelo. And he's just like, yeah, sure, I'll wear it. What? It's a black version of a WBC belt. Cool, whatever. They absolutely want him to be the face of their belt. That is a huge part for them. So they're going to back his play no matter whatever it is. Whatever he wants to do, they're going to be okay with that. Totally okay with that. And I'm not really that surprised. You know? So now, this is another interesting, staying at 168 pounds, talking about someone we haven't even really talked about in months. Interesting article came out. Mark Tibbs came out and said that Billy Joe Saunders could have been better, but he cut corners. And I was like, shots fired. I gotta read this. I've got to read this. So, the bulk of this article was really talking about Tibbs saying that Billy Joe Saunders was special. He's a great fighter. Works hard. He's great to have in the gym. He makes everyone laugh, you know, all that kind of stuff. But because he was so skilled, he cut corners. And that ideally, he would have loved to have had him more at 154 pounds. But there was issues, obviously, with Billy Joe making weight. And because of his talent, he felt like, you know, he would have these off periods outside the ring where he wasn't being as motivated as he could be. Now, I would say that's pretty spot on. I don't disagree with that. Could Billy Joe Saunders been better? Yeah, I think he could have. I actually do. Because when you see the photos of Billy Joe looking fat, looking like he's not in shape, you know, it definitely makes you as a fan go, is this guy really serious? And when he went to 168 pounds, he just didn't look the same. For a bunch of his fights, he did not look the same. And Jay, exactly what you're saying, man, in chat. It's like, this is something we all knew about Billy Joe, but now we hear it from his former trainer, like kind of confirming what we've all felt or thought. And I felt, and I've said this so many times, I have videos from 2 years ago saying this, that Billy Joe staying at 160 pounds would have been a smarter choice for him. Because he, obviously, the David Lemieux fight was his crown jewel of his career. The biggest moment in his career. He looked untouchable. And Mark Tibbs actually talked about putting Billy Joe in the ring for sparring sessions against guys at various weight classes. And he's like, no one could touch him. Like, just no one could land anything on him. He was so slick. So it is a little bit disheartening to hear that, yeah, it is true. You know, you can always speculate as a fan, but to hear it for a kind of like matter of fact, that's tough. What are the rumors about Pac-Man? Last I heard, he was just running for president. And yeah, I'm not surprised George Foreman defends Bob Arum. Because George Foreman has had and worked with Bob. So I am not surprised by that at all. George Foreman doesn't get in between a lot of people. He's losing in the polls, so people think he'll return to the ring. Oh man, I really hope Manny doesn't come back. Not because I don't love Manny. You guys know how I feel about Manny. I love him to death, but No, 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 no. Not what I want to see. I don't want to see him get pounded. I really don't want to see him get hurt. It would be really rough to see him get back in the ring and get hurt. This is why I never gave Billy Joe a shot at beating Canelo. He's very good, but the only reason I wanted to see him fight was for his fans to shut up. I mean, it was one of those things where it's like, I like Billy Joe's personality a lot. I think he's a super skilled fighter, but I was just like, you can't, there's a really kind of classic, I think it was Jim Lampley that said this. It was about Chris Arreola fighting Klitschko. And you saw, there was all this video of, and like kind of moments where you see Chris Arreola like drinking a beer. And they're like, you're getting ready for like your arguably like your biggest fight of your career, and you're out here drinking a beer. And Chris Arreola was like, well, Michael Phelps, smoked pot, so, And it was, and after the fight, Chris Arreola is crying, and I gave it my best, and he just got crushed. And Jim Lampley had a great quote where he said, you can't be a part-time boxer or fighter when you're fighting a Klitschko. The Klitschkos are 24/7. 24/7, 365 fighters. That's how they are. They are 100% ready to go all the time. Always in the gym. You can't be a part-time fighter if you're going to fight a Klitschko. It's just, you're never going to beat them. And I do feel that way about Canelo. You can't be a part-time, somewhat serious fighter and beat Canelo. It's just not going to happen. So, that's how I felt when it came to Billy Joe going into that ring. Yeah, don't take fitness fights from Chris Arreola. Although you look pretty good against Ruiz. Really quick, while I can, I'm going to quickly, shamefully promote. I got just made a new Ali shirt for you guys in the merch store. And I figured you might want, and I'm going to have to pick this one up myself actually, Joe Louis hoodie. Joe Louis hoodie. By the way, Shrek, I am working on a Jack Dempsey shirt and everything right now as we speak. Quick, shameless plug of the merch store. Because I was just like, man, this Ali shirt is too good. I got to keep doing classic boxing. So, anyways, back to news. So, interesting. I did like this article. It was kind of tastefully done. It didn't smear Billy Joe, at least. It was a lot of quotes, which I like, rather than them just kind of assuming things and kind of throwing shade at him. Yeah, that's right. Happy birthday to Smokin' Joe Frazier's right. Drunk club. That's your boy, Shrek. Okay. Now we basically have to go to heavyweight because there's nothing left in terms of news all that much, but we have some crazy tweets actually that's pretty newsworthy. So Tyson Fury versus Dillian White purse bid is moved to January 17th or 18th. I did not see that. So, purse bid is still continuing for Tyson Fury versus Dillian White. It's been moved now to January 17th or the 18th. Very interesting. I know arbitration is probably going to screw this fight up, but there is talk that Eddie's working on the arbitration now to see if he can get by it so they can make this fight. I know a lot of people are like, I don't give Dillian Whyte that much chance against Fury. Yeah, I hear you on that. But I'd rather Tyson Fury fight Dillian Whyte than for him to fight Helenius, who's been rumored as a possible opponent for Tyson Fury. I don't want to see that. I'd rather see Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte's paid his dues. He deserves his mandatory shot. I'd rather see that. I would say that the chance of this fight happening, Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte, if I'm being quite honest, I would give it maybe a 35-40% chance at max of it happening. You know, I honestly don't think that it's going to. I think arbitration's going to get in the way. I really think that's what's going to happen. And Tyson Fury's just going to say, I'm not going to fight for the WBC belt. I'm just going to fight anyways. And I'm going to fight Helenius. Or I'm going to fight someone that's a fairly easy touch for me. So I can stay busy. I can stay relevant. And then I can fight the winner of probably Usyk versus Fury in the fall. And make a ton of money and try to become undisputed. That's what I think is probably going to happen. I would love it to be this, but I just don't see it happening. It could, but I have to agree. There's a lot of hurdles there. There's a lot of hurdles there possibly for it to happen. This popped up, and I was kind of pissed off when I saw this pop up. Jarrell Miller was in a big sparring session with Marius Wack. Now, I don't care about Marius Wack at all. Like, whatever. He's a large dude, big dude, old. I mean, he's getting up there in age. But they're talking about Jarrell Miller coming back in 2022 and boxing again. And nothing is more disgusting to me than a guy like Jarrell Miller, who's not only been a drug cheat, but a multiple times drug cheat and never really been truly punished. Now, you could say, well, it's been a couple years. He got dropped by Bob Arum. He got dropped by Eddie Hearn. And then he was going to get picked up by Bob Arum. And then he got dropped. Like, you could make all these kind of things. But honestly, I think he should be banned. He should be banned from boxing. I don't want to see Jarrell Miller fight. And if he fights, I want him to get absolutely smashed. Because I dislike him that much. For those of you that maybe don't remember Jarrell Big Baby Miller, his claim to fame was he would throw a ton of punches in his fights. Like a lot of punches. Like way more punches than he should be capable of throwing. Because he weighed over 300 pounds. And him and Anthony Joshua got in quite the little tussle at the announcement of DAZN. Big Baby started mouthing off to Josh. Josh, AJ's like, who you talking to? I'm a champion. And Big Baby's like, you're nothing. You're a steroid cheat, actually. Funny enough. And Eddie Hearn's like, perfect. This is perfect. This will be AJ's first fight in the U.S. It'll be against Big Baby Miller. And it was perfect. And then he popped hot for like 4 different things. And boom, was off the card. And that's how Andy Ruiz got his shot and has now elevated himself to top 10 heavyweight. And let me tell you, the funniest video, I think it's still around, I think it might still be on his social media, is if you go to Jarrell Miller hasn't tweeted anything in 2-3 years. He hasn't put anything on social media. He's like really laid low. If you go to his Instagram, I believe there's a video of him after the Andy Ruiz AJ fight, the first one, and he's just going like this, like head in hand, facing, like just face palming, being like, that could have been me. And it's hilarious. Yeah, he had 3 or more types of drugs in his systems when he got caught. He didn't just get caught. He got absolutely destroyed for being a drug cheat. And that was not even his first time. That was like his 3rd time getting caught. So he got caught one time, was going to get banned, but then dropped his New York boxing license. And so you're just fighting Nevada. So I really hope we don't have him come back around. I have no interest, 0 interest in watching Jarrell Miller fight because of that. Okay, we're going to talk Wilder, and then we're going to do tweets of the week. So Deontay Wilder, in this article, they say he has 3 viable fights options. He has Andy Ruiz, he has Anthony Joshua, or he has Usyk. I would disagree with this article because I think there's Joe Joyce, Michael Hunter. I mean, there's multiple people that I would think. I mean, Helenius would be a good fight for him. Cal Naki would be a nice light touch. You know, there's talk of Chisora fighting Wilder. Hell, he could fight Parker, but Parker seems interested in having an Andy Ruiz rematch, actually, funny enough, as his next fight. There's Filip Hrgovic, who's a mandatory, or a part of Eliminator that no one's picked up. So I really feel like there's opportunities here for Wilder if he comes back. He hasn't announced any retirement, so you have to remember, like, there's nothing stopping Wilder from retiring technically, but you know, I have to agree with you. I don't see Wilder fighting Joshua or Usyk next year. Obviously, the loser of that next fight. I don't see that happening. If somehow, let's say Joshua wins, let's say he beats Usyk, they are going to have a rubber match. They're going to have a 3rd fight. It would be criminal of them not to have a 3rd fight. It would be criminal of them to not have a 3rd fight if AJ beats Usyk. There's just no way. So that's definitely going to happen. Now, if Usyk beats Joshua, you think Joshua wants to fight right after fighting Usyk, fight Wilder? Probably not. It's a pretty risky fight. If he did, I mean, more power to him. I'd give him tons of props for that. But that's a dangerous fight. That's a dangerous fight for AJ if he just lost to Usyk. Mind you, AJ has a new training team. So oh yeah, AJ getting trained by Floyd. I mean, they haven't announced who AJ's officially getting trained by yet. He's been shopping around. There's video of him with Virgil Hunter. There's video of him with multiple trainers. He stopped by Eddie Reynoso. AJ is shopping around. We're going to find out officially who's training him. for the rematch with Usyk. But I have to imagine if I'm promoting Wilder, right? What's the best way to get Wilder kind of back on track, right? Put him in there with someone that he can hit. So who's at the PBC that could be hit? You know, like that's start going down the list and start looking. Hellenius is there. I mean, Chris Arreola is there. I mean, there's plenty of people you could probably pick. You know, I doubt you're gonna throw him in with Ruiz, because Ruiz, like I said, I think is gonna fight Parker next. But Filip Hrgović is who I'd probably look at possibly doing it well as well. You know. What about Frank Sanchez? Frank Sanchez, not big enough of a name, if I'm honest with you. I just don't feel like Sanchez is big enough of a name yet. And he looked really bad in his last fight. Against Hammer. He just did not look very good. I think if you're Wilder, you have some options. But then again, who knows? Maybe Wilder's just like, I'm not into it, man. I think it's good that he's taking some time, though. Okay. Now we're moving to tweets of the week. And boy, oh boy. I don't know if Tall Kid's still here, but if he is, man, I saw this and I thought of him immediately. Immediately. Povetkin's retired. Bradis just put this on his social media. So Bradis decided that he was going to go into a tattoo shop. Hold on, let me...
Today we make some crazy things. Let's go and see what's happening. Jay.
Joey. I don't need new friends. I don't like fake friends. Only here to make ends. Call when to check in. I don't like partial. Need a whole back end. Fresh out of London, she still got an axe. The crib like a palace. I took her to Bastards. If he want to feature, then we got a tax.
This is very legit. So the actual tattoo's not a bad.
Got something for you.
Not a bad tattoo, actually.
Hey there. Oh no, sorry. Jay. Now's your turn.
I leave the house that I'm wearing some shit you can't get, and I swear this shit
Takes bad karma, and it looks like kind of like a deer. I guess there's a karma tattoo on the neck. I know it's playing his music too. So I'll show you guys a little bit more. Here's the tattoo. They zoom in on it, right? It's not the worst tattoo. It's kind of cool, actually, style-wise. I actually don't mind the style of it. I was waiting this whole stream to show this to Tall Kid, but I don't think he's here anymore. This is kind of like a cool style. I kind of dig it as a tattoo guy. But man, this is not a good look. This is not a good look by Bradis at all. Calling out Jake Paul by getting a Jake's bad karma tattoo with like some kind of deer, it looks like. Oh, I don't know what to say. From what I understand, Jake hasn't responded. I responded to it. No response from Jake, which I'm not surprised about. But my goodness. I'm a little shocked by it. But I saw that and I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay, let's see if I can get this all. I have to find the Tyson Fury. Okay, Tyson Fury. This is the big news in kind of social media for boxing. This has been something I did not expect to have happen this week.
You know what I can't believe? That AJ has gone and give Ukraine all the heavyweight belts back after all my hard work of relieving them. You big useless dosser. You've let a little steroid man come up from middleweight and set about you and take all your belts. It's gonna have to take a real British Lancaster bomber like me to go and relieve the useless little steadhead of the belts and get them back to Britain. You useless dossers. Honestly, bring them to me. The Gypsy King, bring them to me. And I'll put them into place. I'll relieve them of the belts again. You know what?
So, Tyson Fury makes this video, right? And then on top of that, he makes this tweet, which says, explaining the current heavyweight division to non-boxing people is a real treat. So yeah, the guy in the middle beat the other two guys. And it's a picture of Tyson Fury when he was like fat. And on the right is Klitschko looking cut. And and Wilder on the left looking jacked as well. So Tyson Fury's just shooting shots out here over everyone's bow. Well, Klitschko did not take too kindly to this and had to respond. And he hits back. And he says, at Tyson Fury, you live in a glass house and someone needs to take away your stones. Wasn't long ago before our fight where you actually tested positive. Anyone can Google it. Keep it classy. Woo! Oh! So, Klitschko fires back. And then, to which Tyson Fury then also shoots back and says, pity that someone can't be you, as you could even land a shot in 12 rounds bum. And now, granddad, time has taken you away. At Usyk and you together could never beat a man like me. Woo! So, I'm not even going to try to do it in Tyson Fury's voice. So Tyson Fury's just been trolling hard and accusing Usyk of steroids. Boy, oh boy. I have to say, I did not see this coming this week, but this was entertaining. As you guys saw, this video of him, the initial call out, has 375,000 views. He's getting closer. Probably by this weekend, it'll be 400,000 views. So, good way to keep your name relevant. Good way to keep your name relevant. Now, I didn't expect that. Tyson Fury has this weird duality to him. He'll have moments where he's like really nice to other boxers, and he'll be like, you know, you tried your best, it didn't work out, come again, kind of thing. And then there's other moments like this where Tyson Fury just goes off on people. And it's just like, so yeah, he said, you let a steroid middleweight, meaning Usyk, come up from middleweight and beat you. And I'm just like, wow, these are bold claims from Tyson Fury. He certainly keeps things interesting. Now, while we're talking about Klitschko and Klitschko tweets, Klitschko had this one, and he said, I don't believe in the best you. I believe in the next you. And I was like, okay, you know, whatever. Maybe not the best comment, you know, kind of a little bit boomerish. But I saw this, and this was the best comment of the week on Twitter, which was, live every moment, laugh every moment, love beyond. Because it's very much something you would see in a Midwestern, on a Midwestern couch, just, you know, sewn onto a pillow. Very, very funny. Very funny. I have to say this was hilarious because it's quite the boomer tweet from Klitschko. Quite the boomer tweet. Now, I wanted to show this, which is, I'll tell you what, man. I think I was wrong a little bit about this guy because this is a video of Kambosos, man. And he's looking good, man. He's looking fast. He's looking sharp. And, man, those double-ended bags are very, very, very unforgiving. So I'm kind of impressed. He's been keeping it pretty active in the gym. Good for him, you know. He clearly wants to defend his title. I'm very, like I said, I think he's going to be probably fighting Haney. Haney's probably most likely the individual I see it happening. So that's probably the individual I'm picturing him fighting, but he looks pretty good. Now, we had to get to the absolute dawn of tweets of the week, being the boxer formerly known as Rolly. Ugh. First ever? I don't believe first ever. But probably first in a long time. So let's see. First, Rolly says, honestly, DAZN in general can suck my fat black rooster emoji. And his cheap ass network right afterwards. So clearly Rolly doesn't care much for DAZN. And then this might be my favorite tweet of the week, and that's from Rolly saying, somebody needs to bitch slap Chris Mannix's ugly ass. And I retweeted this actually. And I was like, you know what? I don't always agree with Rolly, but this is actually a absolute fire take. Like, this is a great take from him. I did not expect that. I was impressed. I have to say, Rolly impressed me with this one. He had a couple other. My legacy is here, meaning Twitter. Trek, I do not understand this meme. I love this right here. Who are you looking forward to seeing in the ring this year? And he put the boxer formerly known as Rolly versus Tank. Oh my God. This is my favorite here. I am a symbol of freedom, purity, and love. The boxer, quoting the boxer formerly known as Rolly. It just keeps going. I have to tell you, like, this whole thread He said, I am a painter now. Like, this is where he absolutely says, you know, I'm quitting boxing. I'm becoming a painter. To which then people kind of started memeing about. He said, I am a painter. And we end with a Bob Ross version of Rolly. Yeah, it's exactly. It's only January, and Rolly already has a whole story arc. Amazing. Amazing. And yet again, he just absolutely delivers, man. Absolutely delivers. So good. So good. No, this Photoshop's just absolute fire. They didn't get rid of, my favorite part is, they didn't get rid of Rolly's hair. They kept it, and they kept Bob Ross's hair. They didn't even make Bob Ross's hair black so it would match. They just kept it all the same. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's the most low effort ever I've ever seen in a Photoshop. Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. This is someone using MS Paint. That's what this is right here. This is MS Paint. Okay. So that's the news for this week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed some of that. Friday and Saturday. Normally when I would normally stream, there's a possibility I stream, there's a possibility I don't. Depends on whether or not my wife gets her foot surgery or not. Rolly Ross. If she doesn't get it, then I will stream both Friday and Saturday. And on Friday, there's about a 99% chance I will be streaming God of War that is going to be released for PC. Who do you think Loma fights next? Oh yeah, if you guys have any questions, this is a great part. So, like I told you guys, I am trying to do this as a podcast as well. So that's why I didn't read the chat as much. And so I wanted to make sure that I could kind of cut it and do minimal editing for the podcast, which is just this. But at this point, if you have any questions, send them my way. I think Loma should fight. I mean, he should try to get the Kambosos fight. That's the fight he should absolutely go after. If he doesn't get that fight, I mean, Shakur Stevenson under the same promotion, dangerous fight though. I could see him finding someone as a dance partner. I don't think it's going to be anyone like Ryan Garcia or anything like that. So I have to imagine he's going to try to go for that Kambosos fight. And if he doesn't get it, he might just wait around for the winner of that fight. Haney versus Kambosos. I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do next. It's a good question. Did your wife beat you in the Bragging Rights League? Yes, she did. My wife did beat me in Fantasy Football Championship. And the worst part about it was I had 3 losses all season. I had been crushing in that league. One of my best ever performances in a fantasy football league. I was dominating. And I had one of my worst games, and she won. So she won $120, and I won like 60. 40. No, $60. I won $60. Doesn't really matter. What's up with the Charlo? Yeah, that is definitely going to happen, Shrek. Absolutely going to happen. That's going to be in spring. I don't know. They haven't released timing on that. Next fight stream will be live possibly on Saturday. On Saturday, we have Joe Smith Jr. fighting. Now, he was He was going to fight Johnson, but that didn't happen. Oh, quick breaking news. Edgar Berlanga is going to fight Steve Rolls on March 19th. So there's that. But yeah, Smith Jr. is fighting this Saturday. Not a great fight. It was going to be an okay fight. Callum Johnson tested positive for COVID-19, and then it just really not a good fight now. So he's fighting basically a nobody. So not much there. But if that doesn't happen, I'll probably be back for Gary Russell Jr. on January 22nd. So, but yeah, if we have to find out if the surgery is happening on Friday or not. If it doesn't, I absolutely will be streaming God of War on Friday, because God of War is one of my favorite gaming franchises of all time. Oh yeah, we have UFC 270. We'll be doing that probably. Totally forgot about that. Yeah, January 22nd, we'll probably do Ngannou versus Gain. So good luck at the weekend versus the Bills. We're gonna need it, man. We're gonna need it. And we also have, we have Kobe versus Street Jesus. Let's go. We have some good fights coming up. We have some really good fights. What's up, Steve? How you doing, man? So, yeah. Craziness. But I will let you guys know in Discord what's going on, because hopefully we will get an answer tomorrow morning. Thanks, Jay. Hopefully you guys had a good time. Like I said, check it out. I'm going to have it as a podcast, and it's going to be on Spotify and everything else. I got to edit it tonight. And hopefully, maybe we'll be live this weekend. If not, it'll probably be next weekend. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, man. You guys have a good one, and if I don't talk to you, I will see you next Wednesday. Probably the latest. Okay? Have a good one.